Hello and welcome back to the Troutman Pepper Battery and Storage Podcast. With me today is the FlexGen CEO, Kelcy Pegler. Welcome to the program, Kelcy.
Thanks for having me, Bill. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, Kelcy, we're very happy and excited to have you. You are the CEO of FlexGen, as I said. Previous portions of your career, you were the executive chairman of Sofdesk. You ended up selling Sofdesk to Enphase. Before that, you served as the co-founder and CEO of Roof Diagnostics Solar, which ended up being sold to NRG. And you've got a lot of other interesting aspects to your background, but those are two of the highlights that I wanted to mention. So let me just start off by saying, again, welcome. Happy to have you on the program. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about the previous experience that I ran through there and how you ended up landing with FlexGen, and then maybe just start off by giving us an idea of how FlexGen fits into the battery storage picture.
So I think the topic du jour seems to be the energy transition. And I don't know to you, Bill, and your audience, but it sure seems like we've hit an inflection point of the question mark around energy transition has become more of an exclamation point. And I know that in my experience, I kind of grew up on the renewable aisle that was solar, founded and led a solar sales and installation company that caught lightning in a bottle, grew quickly, and in its fourth year in business was acquired by NRG, as you mentioned. That brought me to lead the solar efforts for NRG for a number of years, which we were, by all measures, continuing with the momentum and the success in the space. It was an odd time where Solar City ended up transitioning into Tesla. NRG had some management shakeups with some activist investor influence, and a odd, let's say, personal and professional experience that saw me build a solar company, continue that momentum from startup to growth into the sophisticated corporation that was NRG, and then had seen that kind of go through a divesting stage as the management shakeup and influence from the activist investor were wielded. And then from there, I joined a Canadian software company, Sofdesk, as you mentioned. That was a really interesting company in that they had a really great technology platform that helped solar companies do everything that they needed to do a little bit more efficiently. It automated a lot of the things that were being done manually. And we saw a great opportunity to expand into storage and home improvement spaces with that technology. The business was successful and was, as you mentioned, at the very beginning of 2021, acquired by Enphase. And by all measures, Enphase and Sofdesk have been really complementary to each other, and I think it was a great acquisition for all sides, investors included. That really coincided with the opportunity at FlexGen. FlexGen has been a leading edge battery storage company for over 10 years. That meant different things at different times. FlexGen being on the leading edge of battery storage 11 years ago quite literally meant you were building microgrids in military use cases. And that's because that was the use cases for battery storage back then. Technologies evolved, and as our capabilities evolved, we did things like oil field hybridization, and now leads us up to today where we have a really capable technology platform building some really great battery storage assets for our partners and our customers, and really thrilled about the space.
Well, that's fantastic. So just from your personal side, in terms of your personal career growth or career trajectory, what led you to go from Sofdesk, and then obviously there was the acquisition by Enphase. I mean, it's pretty brave to now jump in. I think the CEO of FlexGen, you kind of had this path with, as we walk through, from Roof Diagnostics Solar to NRG, and then Sofdesk, and then Sofdesk got acquired by Enphase. Just from the personal side, what was the challenge or opportunity with FlexGen that drew you into this next stage of your career?
You know, I've been disproportionately fortunate in the business events that I've been a part of, and I sat down with a blank sheet of paper and said, what do you really want to do? And that's a tricky question to ask yourself. I landed on three things I was looking to accomplish. I have three kids, 9, 5, and 2. And what I figured out, what I wanted to do was I wanted to do something that my kids thought was cool as they get older and understand what their father does for a living. Part 2, I wanted to make sure that it was good. And the third aspect was I wanted to make sure that it had a really big impact. So that's a pretty broad criteria set, you know, to do something cool, to do something good and make sure it makes a huge impact. And a lot of arrows were pointing to jump back into the solar end of the pool, if you will. But as I became aware of battery storage and the specific opportunity with FlexGen, I recognized that a lot of the things that were true a decade ago in solar are very likely to be true of battery storage. And that was the leading notion that got me into battery storage and the FlexGen opportunity. I will say, you know, as I approach a year in my seat at FlexGen, that is becoming more true than I thought it would have been.
We should drill into that because I think our audience would be interested because a lot of the folks I think in the storage space have come out of the renewable space. It's sort of the next phase, if you will, the energy transformation. So let's drill into that. What are some of the reasons for your statement that there's a lot of similarities from where solar was?
Well, they're both new technologies, right, for their time, and they go through this maturing process where the first question is always a feasibility question of is this going to work? So if you remember back to 10, 11, 12 years ago in the solar space, the overarching question about solar was, could it really work? And battery storage has dealt with that over the last few years of what are the use cases and just that general feasibility questioning. From an operational standpoint, that brings with it its own challenges. How do you price in risk? How do you cover, you know, the downside aspect or the insurance side of these projects and the scopes? So that's all figuring itself out now in a very similar light to what solar had dealt with a decade plus ago.
Interesting. And I guess with storage too, and one of the things I hear, well, maybe people are starting to figure it out because I'm hearing it less, but a little while ago you'd hear, how do we monetize all the things that we can do? We can provide ancillaries, we can provide energy, we can provide grid support. How do we monetize that value stack? So, you know, maybe that's something that you had to deal with as well.
Yeah, so that's a good point. And what's interesting is of the early movers in the battery storage space, I think the commonality is they all have a plan, and the plan looks something like, I'm gonna build this battery storage asset, I'm gonna own it, and as I operate this battery storage asset, I'm gonna cycle it 2 times per day, every day for 20 years. And I guess as Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. The first dynamic weather event, I think you come to realize, geez, cycling at 1.5 or 2 times per day would be nice in theory, but our opportunity to drive revenue in this 72-hour weather event is pretty phenomenal. So we're going to throw the plan out the back door and operate this as often as we are physically able to, because the reward for doing so is so significant. And now that the market is beginning to get the feedback and the learnings from those early events, I think people are getting smarter about the way they're planning for their own battery storage systems and how they might plan on operating them. So we're all learning through the force function that is the event that we're living through.
Gotcha. Well, and one of the things I was going to add when you started mentioning cycling, maybe going in another direction, is I think the early movers, maybe in Pennsylvania, right, learned some hard lessons about cycling batteries and the wear and tear factor, especially with lithium-ion batteries, in that, maybe we got to, rethink our use cases a little bit. And that was really the Wild West days of batteries, if you will. Back, I don't know, 2016, 2017, something like that, where you had this tremendous wear and tear and the effect on the life of the cells. And then I think people started realizing, okay, well, maybe we have to adjust how we use these things. So I think people are maybe getting smarter on how they deploy these batteries. And like I said, in particular, lithium-ion batteries.
You're speaking our language. We talk often about the proverbial guardrails for battery storage systems, and the most important part of operating your energy management system is having the right guardrails and being able to modify them to be more aggressive when it's worth being aggressive, and then keeping them in the right tolerances, on your everyday performance.
One of the things I was going to ask is, you've got a proprietary software platform with FlexGen. You mentioned EMS, energy management software. Just to the extent you can, without giving away your secret sauce, so to speak, but just tell me a little bit about FlexGen and what makes you guys unique in the marketplace. What gives you guys a leg up in the marketplace?
I think the most unique factor of FlexGen is that we never woke up and said, let's build this software capability because it'll be a great way to make money. We built a software platform over a decade with tens of millions of dollars of invested capital. And that software had to meet the demands of everything necessary to operate battery storage in all of the different use cases from the beginning of our time. And the result of that is a really tried and true, capable platform that has the scar tissue and bruises over the years of learning that make its capabilities so tangible.
In terms of if a customer were to approach FlexGen, and let's say, it's a utility customer that says, we've had a lot of generation retirements, and we've got a loss of inertial response. We have a need for ancillaries, in particular primary frequency response, but we also want to deploy batteries. Our state commission is telling us we really need to add batteries. Whatever it is in terms of managing the ramping up and down of our generation, where we've got renewables deployed and they don't match the peak demands on our system, or we've got issues at night. What would be your response to that potential customer if they came to FlexGen?
Yeah, so a broader response first, and then I'll answer it more directly, I think, to the spirit of your question. But I learned a lot from David Crane, who was the CEO of NRG when my solar company was acquired. And David talked about the grid transition well ahead of what has now become common knowledge. And the most significant learning that I was able to receive was, this isn't a disruptive transition. This isn't taxi cabs being displaced by Uber, where fossil fuels are being unplugged and solar and wind are being plugged in, and there's a binary winner and loser. This is more of the United States Postal Service being supplemented and optimized by UPS, FedEx, and I think in today's view, Amazon Prime. And it's battery storage that is helping connect the fossil fuels that make up such a significant portion of our grid, the intermittent power sources of solar and wind, and ultimately providing battery storage, providing that connectivity between the power sources, making it more reliable and intelligent. So to your question of, as these utility companies are trying to figure out how they participate in that and how does battery storage work for them, we really act as an owner's representative here, where we help them do the engineering services that are necessary to scope the project, to put together the engineering profile of what their battery storage will look like. We are a service integration company, so we can do the procurement. We can make sure that the different hardware choices work together and are able to connect in one battery storage system. And then, as we've talked about, our real secret sauce is our hybrid OS technology platform that allows you to operate not only that one site, but as these battery storage systems proliferate, we have a fleet manager which allows you to operate multiple sites across one platform, which is valuable today and will become ever more valuable as we see more and more battery storage.
Well, yeah, I mean, that certainly does answer my question, and I appreciate the big picture answer too. And that's why, I mean, I think in a nutshell, one of the reasons why storage is so hot right now is because it's really an enabler of how you can integrate not only your legacy assets and continue to deploy them to the extent you need to, but also integrate more effectively as you add renewables, particular wind and solar, but other types as well. So it is that technology that seems to bring it all together. So, but it's interesting that FlexGen, it seems like will customize a solution for whatever it is the company's looking for. And so, I don't know if you can comment on what you're seeing in the market, or maybe some trends in terms of either RFP activity or just sort of more generic market opportunities. I'd love to, again, without giving out trade secrets or your secret sauce, but I'd love to hear your impression of what you see in today's marketplace.
Sure, and as we've discussed, I relate a lot of things to my experience set, which comes from solar. Solar had a pretty impressive adoption curve or demand curve, however you want to measure it. Battery storage is surpassing that pretty significantly. To put some rough numbers around it, this year we've seen our pipeline, and pipeline defined by projects we're bidding on or negotiating into or pursuing, grow 300%. And directionally, it was somewhere around a $1 billion pipeline that has grown to over $3 billion. And I think that's a result of a lot of, I think battery storage, at least FlexGen is attempting to make battery storage more approachable. It is a unfamiliar category with some complexity. And what we've made a very concerted effort to do is meet our customers where they want to meet. And today, that's earlier in their decision making, and it's in that feasibility portion of their projects where they're asking themselves, does battery storage work for me? How big of a battery storage system do I need? What will my battery storage system cost? And ultimately, what is the return on the investment? And we're engaging our customers through that process. We're helping them through engineering service agreements do that feasibility work. And we're seeing it pull projects through a pipeline, I think, quicker than we certainly expected.
Geographically speaking, what are the hot areas that you guys are active in?
So we cut our teeth in the Texas market. We've had a lot of success with our partners in Texas. We're expanding. We have some exciting projects in the Midwest and just announced a slate of projects in North Carolina. California has a good project slate for 2022. So we're really seeing geographic expansion for battery storage within FlexGen.
Very, very cool. Very good stuff. How would you either contrast or say it's been sort of similar, your experience as being CEO of FlexGen?
Well, everything I've ever done, I've figured out is helping people buy things that they don't inherently know how to buy themselves. And I don't know that there's a better example of that than battery storage. It really is quite unfamiliar, and there's a deep expertise within our company. And being able to simplify and really make battery storage digestible has been really engaging, a really fulfilling professional chapter for me. I feel like I haven't caught my breath since I started. The market's moving so quickly. But as we talked about, I was hoping to do something cool, good, and with a huge impact, and battery storage is proving to be all those things.
It's really interesting, and you and I, we could both promise we didn't rehearse any of these questions. I did not know that I would get as specific as an answer as I got to that question where you named those three factors. So you obviously were very self-reflective and intentional, which is interesting to hear. And do your kids actually understand what it is that you're doing? Your kids are a little younger than mine, and I'm not sure they understand what the heck it is I do. So with that lead in,
I think my 9-year-old understands enough to be dangerous. My 5-year-old really excels at telling you whatever you need to hear to get whatever she is aiming to achieve. So. And my 2-year-old has no idea, but yeah, Bill, and when you don't have many unique thoughts of your own, you tend to bring them to this type of opportunity. So I'm glad we got to have these moments together.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good, and I look forward to seeing where you take FlexGen. I mean, obviously you've got a great track record, and I forgot how you worded it. You said so, like disproportionately fortunate or something. I'm hoping to be disproportionately fortunate in my career, but so far I don't think I think it's been proportionate is where I would leave it.
Well, I will say that the key is to find much smarter people than yourself to work with, and that's been a big key to my success. We're really proud at FlexGen. We just closed a big fundraising round with Apollo. We have a great investor base of Apollo, Altera, Jerry Miller, and his cohort of investors. So we have a really enthusiastic and engaged investor group, and we're really having a good time in the space, and look forward to keeping in touch.
No, that sounds good. You rattled off the names as I did a little bit of research before we did the interview. I saw the $150 million equity commitment from Apollo, which is exciting, and then you mentioned Altera. So what you've ran through there is obviously very exciting. Gives you guys probably a lot of flexibility, and you can pursue a lot of opportunities. It does sound a little bit familiar in that there's sort of an early stage investor, and then somebody else comes in on top of that, and it's exciting. It's got to be an exciting time. So I will say this has been a great interview. Interesting to hear where you guys are going. I hope you've enjoyed it as well, and I'll give you the floor one last time if you want to add anything about yourself or FlexGen or anything else.
Bill, thank you for taking the torch and really covering this nascent battery storage space, and I had a chance to listen to your other guests, and I'm just very grateful that you included me in the FlexGen story. So look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Absolutely, sounds great. Well, folks, we'll wrap up this episode. Keep listening and give us some feedback on things you'd like us to cover in the future. We appreciate it. And for now, we'll sign off. Thanks, everyone.
Copyright Troutman Pepper Hamilton Sanders, LLP. These recorded materials are designed for educational purposes only. This podcast is not legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individual participants. Troutman Pepper does not make any representations or warranties, express or implied, regarding the contents of this podcast. Information on previous case results does not guarantee a similar future result. Users of this podcast may save and use the podcast only for personal or other non-commercial educational purposes. No other use, including, without limitation, reproduction, retransmission, or editing of this podcast may be made without the prior written permission of Troutman Pepper. If you have any questions, please contact us at troutman.com.